said. So the biggest retirement mistake isn't running out of money. It isn't running about, sorry, give me 1 second. The biggest retirement mistake is not about running out of money. It's about not knowing if you're going to run out of money. And so tonight we're going to speak just a little bit about that. We're going to be in and out for about 25 minutes or more. But really the biggest concern most people have is, will I run out of money in retirement? And the question is, have you done any planning towards that? What are you doing differently? If you're over here or over here, we are on YouTube. We want to make sure that you understand that there are three main mistakes that people are not taking into consideration. And so the first one would be, of course, building reliable income. So I was actually the question today, are you going to run out of money? Should you stop getting paid today? Would you have enough money to take care of you for the next 20 years? That's the first question I would ask you, right? And so the question is being asked because we need to understand whether or not you are going to have indefinite income. Are you going to be relying on Social Security like a lot of people are? And we know that Social Security may or may not be around. Not a fear tactic, is a reality just because of the landscape and where we are in our country. And so how would you make sure that you you take the right planning measures into place, or you make the right decisions around how to position your account so that they never run out of money? It's one thing to have one account. It's one thing to layer your accounts. And if you're not layering your accounts, then that's going to be an issue for you in retirement. So when I say layer your accounts, I'm actually talking about how are you going to make sure that when the one account is exhausted, or will it be exhausted, or is it a type of account that will allow you to have leverage? And when I say leverage, meaning that you can use it in multiple places at the same time. There's all types of accounts that you could do that with. Of course, most people know about the permanent cash value policy because a lot of people are starting to speak about that. You could also use, of course, brokerage accounts. You could also use, say, a buy and hold retirement portfolio. But there's so many different ways that you can leverage one account to be able to duplicate by way of creating more assets by using that same account. And so that's what we're talking about today. So we can get excited about the fact that you don't have to use your dollar once. You can use your dollar twice, 3 times, sometimes 4 times, and really be in a good position to be able to have peace of mind and financial security. And when I say peace of mind and financial security, I'm not just talking about income only. I'm talking about benefits as well. A lot of people, they don't have what we call long-term care plan, of course, right? Heart attack, cancer, dementia, the list goes on. 70% of seniors will have a challenge in retirement. This is the fact. And so we hope that you're not, one of the statistics, but if you are, what is your plan? Because this is the number one termite to your finances in retirement besides taxes. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of these things. So when we say the 3, concerns or areas that you should be focused on, long-term care is certainly one, right? Inflation is another, and taxes is the other. But let's talk about, how retirement isn't about having $1 million, right? So it's really about having a paycheck that's going to never run out in retirement. And so how do you separate your income planning from your investment planning? A lot of people think investments are the answer, but unfortunately you have one bad quarter or one bad year. It's something called sequence of returns, which leads me to the second point besides retirement income. So retirement income is one thing, but then there's sequence of returns in your investments, right? What is that? So let's say the market gets hit 30%, 50%, 70%. We saw that in the pandemic, right? People were literally committing suicide, unfortunately, because they said, I'm not going to work for 20 more years. I'm not going to work for 15 more years because I lost 50% of my retirement. So there needs to be, a healthy amount of investments, right? So how much could you afford to lose? And when you look at how much you could afford to lose, that's when you should be investing primarily at whatever age you are. For the younger person, you have time for the market to rebound. But for the older, my baby boomers out here, some of your Gen X's, if you don't have enough, can you afford to lose 50% right now, or even in the next 5 years? Because would that require you to have to stay and work longer, another 15 years, 20 years in the market, because you don't necessarily have the finances to be able to retire, to not only pay off your bills, but be able to, travel, and to be able to, do some fun hobbies in retirement, things of that nature. I know some people say, well, you're talking about retirement, I can't even live for today. Well, not everyone is in that same boat. There's a lot of people that have a lot that they could do, but they don't know what to do. They don't know how to position their money. They don't know how to get those tax breaks and those tax strategies. And so tomorrow evening, somebody say tomorrow evening, on Thursday at 7:30, we are going to be having a retirement briefing. We're going to be talking about, and we're going to be deep diving each of these areas and then some. And the goal is to really speak to some strategies around it. And I'm not going to gatekeep this evening. I'm going to just talk about some of them right now, because we just talked about a few just now. We start talking about leverage. These are the type of accounts you could have. But when I think about, my situation, even when I was in the military and I got out, I said, you know what, I'm not going to necessarily retire from the military. I'll figure it out when I get out. I'll figure out how I have my retirement plan. And I said, well, no matter what I do, my goal is to make sure that I outpace what I would have done had I stayed in the military. How could I outpace my income versus having a retirement check from the military, right? And so one of the things I started to do when I was in corporate was started building my portfolio. I started doing real estate and bought a half dozen properties. And quickly I was able to see where half of my my annual salary was starting to be passive income. And so the thing that I would tell you today is, how are you going to make sure that what you're doing if you are a W-2 employee, or if you're a business owner, how are you going to make sure that your passive income basically catches up to where you are in terms of your active income, so that you can retire? That would be my number one question to you. What is your strategy? How are you going to make that happen? So when we start talking about retirement income, how are you going to make sure that your passive income at least meets where you are in your active income, or supersedes where you are in your active income, so that you can be able to have peace of mind and financial security indefinitely? Because that's the goal here. We don't want it for a short period of time. We want it forever. And so, number one, retirement income. Number two, I would be looking again at the sequence of returns. How are we going to make sure that our sequence of returns don't take us out in retirement? Because Warren Buffett says that when they ask him the question, what do we do? What's the rule? Tell us the rule right now. If something was to happen to us right now, what do we need to do differently so that we can make sure that we have our money in place? And he said, rule number one is to never lose money. That's exactly what he said. He said, rule number one is to never lose money. And then they said, okay, we get that. That's very easy, simple. Nothing hard about that. We'll figure that out. Tell us rule number two. And so he said, go back to rule number one and never lose money. And so when we say things like, go back to rule number one and never lose money, that's rule number one and rule number two. What are some ways that you can make sure that you never lose money? Well, you can make sure that you don't have any challenges with taxes. How do I keep my money instead of paying it to IRS? What are some strategies? What are some tax advantage plannings that I could do today that's going to really give me a lift in the area of my taxes? Because some of you are really hurting. And I remember being in corporate and paying more than some people's salary just in taxes, because I wasn't, married. I didn't have any children. And so I feel the pain of some of those individuals, right? Like, if you're making double six figures, you're paying about $100,000 in taxes, right? Unless you have a strategy. And so we're talking about some of those types of strategies tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you go to shatika.com, the second link at shatika.com will allow you to be able to register for our briefing on tomorrow night. We're going to be talking about some of those strategies and how you can maneuver away from that. And so that's number two. When I say there's three things that you need to be looking at. Number two, of course, was the sequence of returns. So the biggest mistake people think that they have is that they're doing something. But what can be worse than doing something is doing the wrong thing, having your money in the wrong types of investments, or the sequence of returns not in your favor. Unfortunately, right before 5 years before you retire, you get a big hit. Maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 40%, maybe it's 50% of your retirement account. Now, what are you going to do? Now, what is your plan? Those are some tough questions, but those are some questions that we could definitely get you some answers to. So you got to just draw from different sources. And then, of course, number 3 is going to be, how do you prepare for the 4 biggest retirement risks? When we talk about retirement risk, I often talk about, time, the acronym TIME, TIME, your taxes, your inflation, your medical care, and of course, your emergency plan. And so there are some risks around all 4 of those. How do you mitigate those risks? How do you decrease those risks? How do you minimize those risks? Taxes. What are you going to do different so that you can keep more money? So now the money that you're now keeping, you can multiply so that you can have that much more in retirement. Inflation. How are your accounts right now set up to where you can outpace inflation to such an extent that you have additional income coming in, a passive income, money that you're making while you're sleeping. Like Marvin talks about the money babies. How is your money making more money for you than you are actively working for it, right? And then, of course, medical, like we just talked about, the long-term care, that's going to be your biggest termite. What are you going to do now to make sure that you have the right type of long-term care account in place so that your long-term care is not going to be a nightmare? Not even just your not long-term care, your spouse, your aging parents. So many of you are going to have aging parents or have aging parents. And unfortunately, either you're going to take care of your aging parent or you're going to have to pay, which is a 6-figure bill every year. And so how do you get around that? How do you make sure that you take care of that? Right? So the last one, of course, emergency. Most people think that they need to have 3 to 6 months, but of course the pandemic has taught us differently. How do you make sure that you have all of the year at minimum, at least 1 year taken care of should you have some type of challenge with unemployment? And how do you put that in an account where you can use it for leverage, where you have liquidity, you can access it for the emergency should you need it, as well as just be able to maybe pay off any type of emergency at the time, right? Like if the goal is just to make sure that if you have some type of high interest situation, you don't have to worry about that because you have the emergency cash on hand. So because loans and debt is more and more expensive when inflation is at its highest. So if you can borrow from yourself, you get to circumvent having to pay all those high interest and high debts. So those are just some surface level, like 3 areas to look at. But my goal is just to, ask some of those tough questions, because a lot of time people are just not asking the right questions. They don't know what they don't know when it comes to retirement. They don't know how to position for it. They don't know what they need to be looking at. And my goal is just to heighten your awareness around some of the things that you need to be taking a look at, some consideration that you need to make so that you can decrease your risks around running out of money in retirement, because the number one fear besides dying is running out of money. The number one fear besides dying is running out of money. And so tonight, I just wanted to come on really briefly. And so I wanted to invite you to our masterclass on tomorrow evening at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Just go to shatika.com. Go ahead and begin to fill out the registration. We're going to actually have some goodies for you at the end to be able to help you get into momentum and start taking action immediately on your retirement. So that's one of the couple benefits to come in to our meeting tomorrow night, and just getting some of those those questions answered that you may or may not have. But the goal is just to make sure that you understand that, we had a young lady that ended up, I was telling this brief story, she came to us and she wanted to, see how she could, get a home, right? She wanted to purchase a home. And, she had been working hard, single parent, didn't really have much saved up, We ended up moving her into a product that was going to help her with her retirement account. I like to call this a retirement readiness income account, right? The right type of account, that type of account that's going to allow you to have leverage to where you can still be able to use it and still be on your way to retirement. So what we ended up putting her in was, retirement readiness income account. And that specific account allowed her to be able to have some liquidity. Later on, when she decided she wanted to, go purchase a home, she didn't have to worry about a debt to income ratio. She didn't have to worry about having the finances, her credit getting another hit or anything like that. She was able to go to her retirement ready income account, withdraw the money to put into her house. Now, not only was she able to now have this retirement ready income account for her retirement, but now she has another asset, her home, that she can use for leverage should something happen. I've just talked about employment, so that she could be able to take the equity out if she needed to, if she didn't have enough money, if there was some type of major. But the goal is just to make sure that we minimize having to do those types of things because you have a retirement ready income account in place. So it's not just about saving, but it's about how do you save in such a vehicle that's going to give you the leverage. So not only were we able to help her get her home out of her own retirement income account, but now we allow her to now have an asset in addition to that. And not only that, her asset will be able to generate her more income in the future, whether she decides to, rent out a portion of her home for Airbnb or rent out the entire home because she may relocate and get another job in another state or whatever the case may be. That's two solutions with one product. So having the right retirement ready income account in place is super, super important. Awesome. All right. So that's one story. I got one more story and I'm going to let you go. One lady came to us. She, unfortunately, was diagnosed with cancer. We know that they call it the C word, the cuss word, and so many people give it the F-bomb and all these different things, but it's happening. People are getting all types of different, types of, unfortunately, chronic critical terminal illnesses. And so if this particular woman did not have the right type of account, which was going to allow her to be able to use her benefits in her retirement. So if your retirement ready income account does not have a benefit that allows you to be able to pull out more than you put in, if you have some type of challenge medically, you're in the wrong type of account, because it could happen to anybody. It doesn't have to wait until you're 65 to have a chronic critical or terminal illness. People are having it in their 40s and their 50s, before they even retire. So on your way to retiring, do you have the right account in place? And if you have the right type of account in place, then you have peace of mind to know that not only did I just only put in, say, 5K, but was able to take out 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, just because I had the right type of account. That's what we're talking about. So having a retirement ready income account in place is super important. Super important. So tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about all these types of things at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I don't have my book near me. It's over on my desk. But we do have a book that's coming out. If you go to shatika.com, you can be able to look at the top link on that. And you can, actually, the top link is about our community. But there is a link on there that talks about, pre-ordering the book. When you pre-order our book, you get access to 5 years worth of updates. It's going to be a flipping book version that you'll get immediately. Next Monday, we'll be releasing that immediately to you. So if you want to go and get that book at today's rate, because it's going to be going up. The book will be more expensive the next time you look. So the goal is just to go ahead and get that taken care of at the lowest cost possible before we raise the price. And so we have a flash sale, because once it's released next week, it won't be that price anymore, right? Like it's going to be going up. And so that's our goal, to get you that book, because that book is going to help you position for retirement. It's going to give you peace of mind. It's going to help you with financial security. It's also going to help you understand how we do some things around using our finances for real estate investing. It's in that book as well. Now, because the goal is to make sure you understand how one of the tools that the billionaires are using will work for you in retirement, and how you can use your retirement account in conjunction with real estate, for tax advantage planning, because we know taxes, of course, with the big beautiful bill and so many other opportunities that we have right now, real estate is going to allow you that tax break that you're looking for. And so that book covers that. If you're looking for the strategy and the play on how to make that work for you in retirement, but on your way to retirement, the goal is just to get that book as well. It's going to break that all down. If you go to wiwsolutions.com, that is our company to let you see how it is that we're working with people to help them with their real estate investing journey, to help them now leverage their real estate to have more money in retirement. So we're sort of becoming, the vision is to become the one-stop shop for your retirement wellness journey. So our desire is to be the financial retirement wellness center of the nation, with primarily retirement. That's where our focus is. This is how we got started. And to be able to do that, this book is going to show you all the different areas to do that. But when you come on tomorrow evening, we have a retirement planning guide that we'll be giving you. We're also looking at curating a calculator that we also have to put in there, a link for our calculator that we developed, so you can kind of see. And I can actually share that with you here in just a second. If I do have a couple of minutes. Let me see if I can share my screen to be able to show you what that retirement calculator would look like. Let me pull that up first, and let me see how to do that. And let me go into the comment section, see if there's any questions. If there's any questions, let me know. I know quite a few people are traveling this time of day, but if you have any questions, definitely put it in the chat so that we can make sure your questions get answered. And right now, I am going to share my screen so that you can see exactly what the retirement calculator is going to look like. Let's see, is that it? Yep, this is it right here. You should be able to see my screen. I am going to make myself smaller so that you can see the calculator. And I kind of go through it just really briefly with you because it's important to have the right type of a calculator in place. All right, so let's see. Pull it back up here. I think I moved it too far down. Hide this button. Give me 1 second. 1 second, 1 second. Okay. So now that you see the calculator, you can see that it talks about your age. So basically you would put your age in here, your retirement, then your planned retirement age. Of course, it's going to calculate your planning age and then estimate your annual inflation. And from there, you can start talking about your retirement income. And of course, you need to go to ssa.gov and start seeing like what your Social Security is going to be, and what's your pension going to be, and what's your desired monthly retirement income. One of the things that we help you do is fill in the gap. So what is going to be your potential gap? And then we help you come up with, passive income opportunities and other ways that you can get ahead of that gap if we decide that you're going to have a gap. We want to make sure that we, of course, take into account your taxes. But looking at number 3, your retirement savings, really just looking at all that you've accumulated. What is your net worth? What do you have going on right now? And so what is going to be your monthly contributions on total retirement, because you need to be where you need to be. And then it just goes into your results, years into retirement. What's your retirement income? Your retirement income that's going to be needed. Some people think that they can, save for retirement in 1 year, and they really need to be doing at least 15, 20 years because of where they are. So it just depends on how far out. Some people are doing very well. Then they're not even concerned. They've already been saving quite a bit. But again, it's not about how much you save. You can have $1 million, but run out of money very quickly if you don't have it positioned properly. So that's what we come in at, to help you make sure that you're in the right position, that you're taking your RMDs at the appropriate time, so you can optimize, not being heavily taxed in retirement, things of that nature. Even getting into, of course, those tax-free accounts that we've been talking about in some of our briefings. So tomorrow night at 7:30, we will be definitely having those conversations and making sure that you're in the right position and that you understand how it is that we help clients get into the right position when it comes to their retirement plan. With that being said, I am going to move to closing down this live, and we will see you at the top because you belong there. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow evening if you decide to join us, and we know you will. if you're available.